one option, that is Malta. So it's just a donation of 82,000 euros. That's it, 82,000 euros. So if you're willing to purchase a property of minimum 375,000 euros, then your donation is just 82,000 euros, right? But there is a second option as well. So for people who are not willing to stretch and purchase a property right in the beginning, then for them, basically, you need to donate about 112,000 euros. You need to get a property for about minimum 14,000 euros per annum. So to reiterate, if you're leasing a property, then your donation is 112,000 euros. If you're purchasing a property, then your donation is only 82,000 euros. So that's how cheap Malta can get. Along with that, you also need to demonstrate that you have assets worth 500,000 euros, out of which minimum 150,000 euros should be financial assets. So when I say financial assets, stocks, bonds, deposit in bank, etc., right? And the balance 350,000 you can demonstrate as your real estate, your property, whatever you own, right? Hard assets. That's the way it works. Please understand, when you're purchasing a property of 375,000, first and foremost, this is a property under your name. So it's basically the title is going to be transferred to your name. But you need to keep in mind that this property shouldn't be sold for at least 5 years. After 5 years, you can actually sell the property. You want to buy another smaller residential property, or you want to buy commercial, or whatever. You are free to do whatever you want with that money, right? So Malta real estate, there is tremendous appreciation in Malta. Real estate is doing pretty well. So you can expect a conservative figure of about 7% year-on-year growth where real estate is concerned, right? At least residential real estate. Plus, let me also tell you, one is this appreciation. Second is that there is the euro rupee, Indian rupee, fluctuation which happens there, right? The Indian rupee keeps devaluating, and on an average, we have seen that it devaluates at about 3% per annum. If you look at the past few years, during COVID times, it was completely different. It was in fact a big figure. The devaluation was far higher, but on an average, you can make about 3% on the euro. So 7% property appreciation, 3% you can make in terms of the devaluation, you can earn about 3% on the euro. Plus, after 5 years, you can also put your property on rental equity. So that's the additional rental income which you can get. So you can expect anywhere between 10 to 15% returns. Keep in mind, until the period of 5 years, you cannot lease out your property. So for example, if you're taking a property worth 375,000 or 400,000 or 500,000, whatever, you cannot lease out your property, right? So after 5 years, you can use the same property, you can rent it out, and you can earn rental incomes as well. You always talk about the benefits of European residency. One would say Schengen visa travel, right? 29 Schengen states. So Malta is far beyond Schengen visa travel. It's not only for applicants, individual families who are looking at an alternative residency or to retire. It is also for end users. So I've seen a lot of my clients in the past, they have their children to go to Malta and study because there are great English-speaking universities in Malta. So that's a huge benefit. At the same time, parents who want to be close to their children, and I've had families like that who are already in real estate. One client was into the pharma industry and one was into finance. Basically, they opened up their branches in Malta. There's a lot of ease of doing business over there. You can open up a company in about 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, you can incorporate a company. There is finance, as I mentioned, my clients were for pharma, real estate, as I already mentioned, gaming, crypto and blockchain is becoming big over there. And for gaming, for iGaming, in fact, online gambling, it's one of the largest hubs in Europe. These are the areas where basically people look at expanding their business in Europe while their children are already studying over there in English-speaking universities. So it is not only for investors who are just kind of investing passively and looking at probably a retirement. It's also for people who are looking at either relocating or maybe shuffling between India and Europe. The corporate tax structure over there is between 5 to 35%. But if you structure it well, there are certain refunds which you can get from the government over there. And if structured appropriately, your taxes can come down to 5%, just 5%. You look at other countries which are pretty effective in terms of corporate taxes. There is Cyprus, but that is at 12.5%, which is great too. There is Ireland, which is at 12.5%. There is Hungary, which is at 9%. But just to reiterate, again, the taxes, corporate taxes of Malta can come down to as low as 5%. It's an English-speaking country, so 90% of the population in Malta speaks English. So that definitely helps you, right? It also helps you navigate your work, business, day-to-day thing, because if you see most of the European countries, they have their local language. But in Malta, 90% of the population speaks English. Climate is also a huge factor. So Malta has 300 days of sunshine. That is also a huge positive for Indians because they don't like harsh winters. Indians enjoy pleasant climate and Malta has pleasant climate throughout the year. If I sum it up, Schengen visa-free travel, obviously you're a resident, you can live over there, work over there, do business over there, right? There is a pathway to citizenship. So if you live in Malta 5 years out of 7 years, and in fact, another positive is that you don't need to necessarily give a Maltese language test. You can just give a English language test as well, and you can get a citizenship in Malta. Thriving economy, multiple industries, English-speaking country, excellent climate. Yeah, so I think these are enough reasons for somebody who's looking at a European Union country to consider Malta definitely. We have experts in Malta whom we have tied up with. So if anybody engages us, leaving apart the services which we provide, we can also get them connected to reputed and credible tax experts who can help them mitigate the taxes or optimize the taxes, as I said, probably bring them down from 35% to 5%. Yeah, absolutely we can. See, as I mentioned earlier, the benefits of business or work extend to the children as well, right? So think about the situation that a child goes and studies in one of the top English-speaking universities in Malta, right? And most of the children who then study in international jurisdictions, at least in India, they do not want to come back because of the lifestyle. So they can then, once they have studied over there, they can easily navigate their way into industries like finance, gaming, crypto, real estate, tourism, shipping. I mean, there are a lot of industries, right? So definitely it helps the child. The child can study over there, complete their, let's say, graduation or masters, and then basically get into either pick up some good opportunity, work, get employed somewhere in a large MNC or probably start up their own business. Every applicant wants to know whom they can bring in within that donation or investment. And Malta allows you to bring in your parents. Malta allows you to bring in your grandparents. Malta allows you to bring in your children below the age of 29. Malta allows you to bring in your wife's parents. Malta allows you to bring in your wife's grandparents as well. Okay. So it's unheard of. It's very rare. Just there are certain conditions of financial dependency. So if the child is about 18 to let's say 29, so then you need to prove that the child is financially dependent on the main applicant, right? So that is one area. And even for your parents or grandparents, you need to prove that they are financially dependent on the main applicant. But leaving apart that, it's phenomenal. As I mentioned, you can bring in your entire family. So again, this is something which is very rare. When we talk about any other program, clients usually always ask us, so do we break up our investments during the process? But no, it's usually not the case. So for example, if it's Portugal, you need to pay 500,000 upfront and then you can apply. Or if it is Greece, we need to pay 250,000, let's say, into real estate, and then you can apply. But Malta, it's not that way. So when you're making an application, you just need to donate, or it's called an admin fee, 15,000 euros. That's it. Only 15,000 euros during your application. Now, after you've applied, once you get your approval, which takes, let's say, 6 to 8 months, you need to make your balance donation. Or let's say if you want to lease out a property for yourself or purchase a property for yourself, all that you need to do after you get your approval. So it kind of mitigates your risk, right? You're just paying 15,000 initially and the balance amount you're only paying after approval. So that is a great benefit, which is very unique in the case of Malta.